It was supposed to be the biggest day of his life. Cameron Blake had rehearsed his answers all night. Resume ironed, shoes polished. The interview was set for 10 a.m. sharp at Weston Tech, a company known for hiring only the best. A job here meant more than a paycheck. It meant his mom could finally stop working. Doubles at the diner. It meant escaping the dead-end jobs that had haunted his neighborhood. Like a curse, he left home early just in case. Tied his only good tie in the mirror twice. Took the bus even. Skipped breakfast, too nervous to eat. At 9:25 a.m., he was 5 blocks from the building when he saw her. A woman, maybe mid-60s, was kneeling on the sidewalk near a broken-down sedan, her arms trembling as she struggled with a rusted lug wrench. One of her tires was flat, rim practically, biting the pavement, and no one, not one person, had stopped. Cameron hesitated. He looked at his watch. 9:26. Not my problem, he whispered. But then she dropped the wrench. Clanged hard, echoing off the buildings. She winced and held her wrist like it hurt. Her eyes met his just for a second. That was enough. He sighed, pulled off his blazer, and jogged across the street. Ma'am, you okay? She looked up, squinting against the morning light. Her name, she'd later tell him, was Janice. Oh no, I'll figure it out, she said, flustered. Don't let me ruin your morning. You didn't. This car did. He smirked, kneeling down beside the tire. She chuckled, rubbing her wrist. He loosened the bolts, jacked up the car, and swapped in the spare she had tucked away in the trunk. It wasn't fast. Everything was rusted, and she didn't have all the right tools. But he got it done. At 9:54 a.m., his hands were black with grease. I'm late, he muttered under his breath, not blaming her, just himself. She noticed. You had somewhere to be? Interview, he said. It's fine. He was already jogging off when she called out, Wait, you didn't even tell me your name. He turned, jogging backward. Cameron Blake. Good luck, Cameron Blake, she shouted. He smiled. By the time he reached Weston Tech, it was 10:17. The receptionist barely looked up. You were scheduled for 10. I know, there was a flat tire and, unfortunately, they're strict about time. She handed back his resume like it was a takeout. Receipt. You can reapply in 6 months. He didn't beg, didn't argue. He just nodded and left. The walk home felt longer. Worse, it started to rain. By the time he got back to his apartment, his tie was soaked, his shirt clung to his skin, and the smell of motor oil clung to his hands like a scar. His mother opened the door, face hopeful. Well, he didn't lie. He never did. I missed it, he said. She looked like she wanted to ask why, but instead, she just pulled him into a hug. Then they missed out. The next week was quiet. He applied to smaller jobs, tried to forget about Weston Tech, but the failure lingered. One day, as he was leaving the corner store, he saw a familiar car parked down the block. Same dented bumper, same faded parking sticker. And there she was, Janice, talking to a man in a navy blue suit. Cameron tried to sneak past, but she spotted him. Cameron! He winced, walked over. Janice was glowing. This is him, she said to the man. This is the one I told you about. The man turned. He was maybe in his 50s, silver-haired, with a kind but unreadable expression. You changed her tire? He asked. Cameron nodded slowly. Missed a job interview to do it? Yeah. The man extended his hand. Daniel Weston, founder of Weston Tech. Cameron's stomach dropped. He stared at the man's outstretched hand like it was a trick. Janice grinned. He's my brother. Weston chuckled. You helped my sister. You didn't know who she was. You didn't even stay for. Thanks. It was the right thing to do. Exactly, Weston said. He pulled a card from his coat. We're hiring for a different role. Something better, actually. Come by. No interview this time. Just a conversation. Cameron held the card like it was made of gold. He didn't speak. He couldn't. As they walked away, Janice turned back and said, "The world doesn't need more people who perform well in interviews. It needs people who do the right thing when no one's watching." Later that night, Cameron sat on his rooftop, card still in hand. The skyline flickered with promise. He didn't know what tomorrow held, but for the first time in a long time, he wasn't afraid of it. Daniel Weston's business card still pressed between his fingers like it was alive. The New York skyline shimmered ahead, glass towers catching the last light of day, traffic humming below like the pulse of the city itself. For the first time in weeks, he didn't feel like he was chasing something. The opportunity had found him. The next morning, he pressed his shirt. Same button-down he'd worn for the interview he missed, but this time it felt different. Not like armor, more like a reminder of who he was when no one was looking. The address on the card led him to a sleek building in Midtown. Reception knew his name before he even gave it. That alone made his palms sweat, but he squared his shoulders and followed the assistant to the 42nd floor. There, in a room with a 180-degree view of the city, sat Daniel Weston. Alone. No boardroom table. No paperwork. Just a quiet leather lounge and 2 mugs of coffee. "Cameron," Daniel said, standing. "Thanks for coming." "Of course, sir." "Daniel's fine. Sit." Cameron did. He kept his hands in his lap. "I don't believe in formal interviews," Daniel began. "Too many people learn to pass them without having the character to back it up." Cameron nodded slowly. "My sister told me you missed your interview to help her, without knowing who she was. That said more about you than any resume ever could." "I wasn't trying to impress anyone." "I know. That's why you did." Daniel sipped his coffee. "What do you want out of this, Cameron?" It was the question he didn't expect, and one he didn't have a polished answer for. "Not a title," Cameron said finally. "Not a nameplate. I want to work somewhere where doing the right thing isn't just a motto printed on the wall. Somewhere that still remembers why it started." Daniel smiled faintly. "You know what we call that?" "What?" "Vision." He reached into a folder and slid a slim packet across the coffee table. Cameron looked down. "Mentorship Initiative Weston Tech. A new program. You'd work directly under our strategy team. Learn the bones of the company. No salary for the first month, but a stipend. If you prove yourself, we talk full-time." Cameron's throat tightened. "Why me?" Daniel's voice was calm. "Because you already passed the test that mattered." 3 weeks in, Cameron still didn't have an office. But he had a badge, and that badge got him into every room that mattered. Meetings about expansion, hiring policy reviews, even budget discussions with folks who wore watches worth more than his rent. He didn't speak much at first. He watched, listened, absorbed, but he started to notice things. Pattern. There were fewer Black and Latino employees on the tech floors than in the lobby security. Rotation. Interns who looked like him never made it past summer. Maintenance staff who were never acknowledged unless something broke. He saw the cracks, and once you saw them, you couldn't unsee them. One afternoon, Cameron lingered after a hiring review. A junior exec, white guy in his 30s, laughed as he tossed a resume into the reject pile. "Too urban," he muttered. "No culture fit." Cameron's jaw locked. He didn't speak up yet, but he made a mental note of the name on that resume. Then later he checked the applicant's portfolio. It was better than half the finalists. That night, Cameron stayed behind. Empty halls, quiet floors. He logged into the internal database and ran some numbers. Diversity stats, retention, promotion rate by race and gender. The numbers didn't lie. When he printed them out, it was like holding a mirror to the building. The next morning, he knocked on Daniel's door. "Got a minute?" Daniel looked up. "Always." Cameron slid the papers onto the desk. Said nothing. Daniel read for a long time, then looked up. "I didn't know it was this bad." Cameron shrugged. "Most people don't, but it's there." Daniel tapped the papers. "What do you suggest?" Cameron exhaled. "Start where you are. Begin with the next round of hires. Open up the sourcing pools. Revisit how you evaluate culture fit. Create a panel that doesn't all look the same. Daniel studied him. You've been here, what, 23 days? 24. A pause. I'll back you, Daniel said. Word got out. Slowly. Some people pushed back. Quiet resistance. Snide comments about quotas and overcorrections. One manager rolled his eyes during a DI meeting and muttered something about wokeness. Cameron saw it, logged it, but he didn't flinch. He'd walked away from rejection once. He wasn't about to back down now. 2 months later, Elaine Ross, vice president now, called him in. You're not just surviving here, she said. You're changing things. He blinked. We want to offer you a full-time role, strategy and people operations, with room to grow. Cameron was stunned. Also, she added, I nominated you for the Murrell Fellowship. He'd heard of it. A shadow program. 1 executive mentee per year. The kind of opportunity that didn't just open doors, it built new ones. Why me? He asked again. Elaine smiled. Because when the system handed you a closed door, you didn't kick it. You built a side entrance. Fall came fast. Cameron adjusted. Now he was the one reviewing resumes, sitting in on interviews, giving feedback that actually mattered. But he hadn't forgotten where he came from. Sometimes, on lunch breaks, he'd walk back to the corner where he met Janice. Once, he found her there again. She was helping a younger woman jump a car battery. Passing it on? He asked. Janice looked up, laughed. Always. The week before Thanksgiving, Cameron received a letter. White envelope. No return address. Inside was a photo. A blurry image of him helping Janice. Someone must have taken it that morning. On the back, in looping handwriting. Some interviews never end. Keep showing up. No signature. But something told him it was from Daniel. He kept it in his wallet. On the 1-year anniversary of the flat tire, Cameron was asked to speak at a new employee orientation. He stood in front of a room of fresh faces, some anxious, some cocky. He told the story, not to impress, just to explain. You never know when the moment that defines your future is happening, he said. But I've learned something. It's usually disguised as something small, something inconvenient, like a flat tire on the way to a job interview. They laughed, but they also listened. One intern approached him after. Do you really believe kindness can change your life? Cameron nodded. It already did. Later that week, a reporter from a local business journal reached out. We're profiling impact hires, she said. Your name came up. Cameron agreed cautiously. The article went live the following month. Headline: From missed interview to boardroom. Strategy: How one act of kindness changed everything. His inbox flooded. Old classmates, neighbors, even his former high school principal reached out. But one message stood out. A name he didn't recognize. No subject line. Just one line of text. You think you're untouchable now? No signature. No context. He reread it twice, then deleted it. Still, it stuck with him. He told Elaine. She brought in IT to trace it. No leads. A week passed. Another message. Watch your back. Not everyone likes golden boys. Cameron didn't flinch this time, but he saved the message. Then he doubled down. He proposed a new initiative, pay transparency across departments. He knew it would ruffle feathers. He also knew it was overdue. At night, Cameron returned to the rooftop. Same bench, same skyline, but something had shifted inside him. This wasn't about a job anymore. It was about becoming the kind of person who could change the culture of a place without losing himself. As he looked out at the city, phone buzzing beside him, he smiled. The messages hadn't stopped, but neither had he, because the real interview never ends. It lives in what you do next.